Welcome back. Teens are more wired than ever before, but parents just aren't keeping up.
Well, it's almost impossible to keep up. Technology changes so fast. Memphis dad and parenting expert Brian Hausman teaches us how to be tech-savvy parents in his new, we were just discussing this, it's kind of an e-book in that it's not a hardcover regular book, but it's more interactive than an e-book. Because parents, it's designed so what? Parents and teens can be there together and
instead of doing a print book that most parents are used to sitting in bed reading, instead we wanted to do a book. You know, I've had a couple of print books done. We've interviewed about that before. But we wanted to do a book that forces parents to use the technology. You know, so that they
really understand
exactly,
what
so they can get used to reading a book on their phone like kids do, or reading a book in bed on their Kindle or Nook or iPad, that kind of a thing. So yeah, there's videos embedded in the book, there's infographics. I mean, every page has got some way for you as a parent to interact with the information.
Wow.
Yeah. It leads parents through everything of how do you set cell phone boundaries with your kid, how do you talk to your child about internet pornography, how do you set healthy limits when it comes to texting and those kind of things. So yeah, just about any issue you can imagine that parents are struggling with technology, it's going to be addressed.
And you mentioned depression with teens as far as their overexposure. They're exposed so often, so early. Where are some of the problems there?
Well, you know, there's actually a new term that's been added to our cultural lexicon now called Facebook depression.
Wow.
Where it's actually now, you know, a clinical term that sociologists are using and psychiatrists are using is Facebook depression, because teenagers, they don't know how to set boundaries themselves. You know, even when we were kids, if your mom, you know, your dad gave you $20 to go out on Friday night, you didn't come back with any change, you know, because we didn't have boundaries. And now it's the same way. We hand our kids a cell phone and they don't know how to regulate themselves. And so when they, at 12 or 13, get set up on Facebook, they immediately, a whole new world opens up and they submerge themselves in it and don't know how to pull out. There was, just 2 weeks ago, there's a new study that came out in the Wall Street Journal where they asked kids about their Facebook usage, and 70% of high schoolers said, I wish I could pull away from Facebook, but I just can't.
Wow, it's almost like an addiction.
Yeah, absolutely.
So unlike that $20, the internet is infinite, and that's why it pulls them in. And as you mentioned, a new study also showed that teenagers are more depressed than ever, and some people are saying. So will your book help parents deal with that? Because I'm assuming there are ways we can lock after a certain amount of time. What do we do?
I think one of the healthiest things we can do, part of what leads to the depression, the technology depression with teenagers is, you know, we were made to be part of community. And initially that's what Facebook was set up for, was to be an online community. But what happens is teenagers, when they've submerged themselves online, you don't get physical touch anymore.
Gotcha.
You know, and you don't get eye-to-eye interaction with another human being. You don't get to hear another person affirm you and talk to you. You have to try to interpret what these words on a screen mean when someone says something about you. And so we're seeing more and more teenagers, they're not getting all those senses of love and affirmation from even their peers or their parents. And so they're having to figure out, well, what does this person mean when they say this about me? You know, just in the past 5 years, we've had over a dozen teenagers commit suicide because of, and I know you guys have done stories about this, teenagers have committed suicide because of things that have been said about them on sites like Facebook. And of course, there's other issues going on in that child's life, but that was a symptom as well.
As far as parents, you know, every family is different, but what should parents look at as far as setting some guidelines and boundaries to keep their child from becoming addicted to texting or, you know, Facebook or whatever?
Absolutely. You know, as a parent myself, you know, I have a high schooler and middle schooler. In every area of their life, we help them set boundaries. You know, we help them, you know, come up with how much dessert you can eat after dinner.
How much sleep.
Exactly, how much sleep you need, when to do your homework, how long you could be on the phone. But yet, when it comes to technology, many parents, we haven't thought through that this is a big part of their life. So I think one of the biggest things we can do is to say, hey, I want you to be online. That's going to be a big part of your life, but let's have times in our day, just a few minutes of just quietness. Maybe the first thing you do in the morning is not to pick up your cell phone or your laptop, you know, as my child, to check and see what people have said about you or what's going on, but maybe leave your cell phone hooked up on the counter in the kitchen. So the first thing you do in the morning is get up and look at yourself in the mirror instead of what other people are saying about you. Or just even in our family with our kids, in the summer months we've had screen-free mornings. You know, so when you get up in the morning, you got to come up with something else to do besides hopping on the internet, and it's really difficult for our kids.
That's their life. Thank you so much, Brian.
Absolutely.
We're going to post a link to Brian's website on our website so you can get to his book, because boy, do we need it.
Yeah, you can just go to our website, WRAG.com, and click on the On Air tab at the top of the page, and then click on today's date.